So on the issue of race, I couldn't agree more that this is an issue that is still not being talked about truthfully and honestly. There is not a black man I know, be he a relative, a friend, or a coworker, who has not been the subject of some form of profiling or discrimination. Growing up, my sister and I had to deal with the neighbor who told us her parents couldn't play with us because we were black. And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
This is top-tier candidate Kamala Harris. There's been reporting behind the scenes that basically make the point that Kamala Harris is actually at the top of the ticket, or at the very least at the top of contention for the potential to be VP, along with Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar is also on that list. I'm going to go through what the sources are saying. Basically, you have donors who love Kamala Harris to death, you have surrogates, and you have aides of Joe Biden. Apparently, the relationship between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was able to evolve beyond this particular point, where Kamala Harris basically made the point, it is problematic that you are raising the hand of out-and-out racists as being some of your role models. Not to mention, when you were opposing busing, I was that little girl, Joe Biden. That was basically that scene. I'm going to go through the article, and I'm also going to give you the one piece of counterintuitive information that will most likely be the determinative choice, or the ultimate determining choice or factor in regards to who Joe Biden chooses to be vice president. Welcome to Late Night Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. Now, Politico runs this article that basically makes the point that Kamala Harris is being vetted and is basically at the top of contention for the VP spot. Interviews more than 24 Democrats, including advisors, allies, and donors aligned with Biden, returned to Harris as an early frontrunner. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, the favorite among progressives, were also seen as a rising above the pack. So, right here, Biden and Harris have spoken privately several times, and a growing contingent of operatives inside and around the presumptive Democratic nominee's campaign has been making it clear that they want her as his pick. Influential donors are joining in the push, seeing the daughter of immigrants from India and Jamaica as the most logical choice to balance the ticket, led by a white man in his 70s. So other names that are up for the job: Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, Florida's Representative Val Demings, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams, former state House leader who narrowly lost the governor race. Now, I doubt it's going to be Stacey Abrams. Susan Rice is an interesting pick, but I'm skeptical of Amy Klobuchar. Whitmer is an interesting pick. Now, Right here, Warren supporters are pitching her inside Biden's camp as a governing choice who could unite the party by exciting liberals and young voters while bringing to bear her skills for small dollar fundraisers. Harris's allies and donors point to her as a comparative youth, her ability to energize voters of color in key states, and what they believe to be a seamless rapport between her and Biden with a little ideological daylight. I played this clip before, but this clip is perfect. And I'll explain it after she makes her point.
Your thoughts, Zerlina, real quick on yes. Your thoughts, Zerlina, real quick on yes. Must it be an African-American woman or not?
Yes, I think he needs to choose an African-American woman. Black women are the base of the Democratic Party. We showed that again and again. We showed it again in South Carolina, just like all those other times. So he should pick a black woman and demonstrate that he understands this particular moment and our electoral power.
This is basically what I am saying, that Joe Biden, if indeed African Americans was the contingent that was the most loyal to him, that was backing him to the hilt the most, he would go over Kamala Harris's name and he would X Kamala Harris out. Now, why would he X Kamala Harris out? Now, what Zerlina Maxwell is saying here is anti-politics. That's the opposite of politics. If you are giving your support over to a party to the hilt and to the tune of 90%, which African Americans basically on any random day for any random Democrat will vote for them to, roughly 90%. They have no reason to choose you. They already have you in their pocket. The fact that you support them to the tune of those numbers is the exact reason why they will go looking elsewhere for people who don't support them in those numbers. It sounds counterintuitive, but if you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. If you are in a political process and you're trying to use some kind of leverage in order to get one of these parties to take some level of concessions in regards to policy, well, how are you going to do that? Now, if you're lumping all of your support into the party, then that party already has your support. And basically, you're stuck in a position of begging and pleading with them to do X or to do Y. The stronger position is to be outside of the party, playing somewhat hard to get, and basically making the point that, look, these are the policies that I need if you are to get me. Now, say for the moment, it's not entirely policy. Biden already has it. If you notice in the document, they said they're basically a one-to-one. Well, Biden doesn't really need a one-to-one because Biden already exists. If you're looking for something to balance the ticket, you're not really looking for a one-to-one to balance the ticket. That's kind of counterintuitive to balancing the ticket. Now, yes, you have more people that voted for Hillary Clinton, meaning Bernie supporters, than voted for Barack Obama that were Hillary supporters by percentages. So it's not so much that Bernie supporters basically abandoned the party. That's what I wish they would do. But they do have a contingent of lefties, especially this year. They seem to be more vocal about not necessarily backing Joe Biden. The Emerson poll had 51% of people either being third-party curious or third-party likely. That's a lot of people who potentially cannot bring themselves to vote for Joe Biden, or at the very least cannot be bothered. Now, if your name is Joe Biden and you want to try to win this election, well, right now you have Donald Trump who's basically winning the election for you. But say for the moment Donald Trump wasn't winning the election for you. Say for the moment Donald Trump had this kind of weird come to Jesus and the polling turned around and he wasn't necessarily losing these numbers in these various states in the way that he's losing now. Who does Joe Biden get to shore up the race? And this is kind of what I'm getting at when I'm making the point that this is not entirely an ideological thing. If Joe Biden believes that he can win the race without balancing the ticket from the standpoint of ideology, meaning bringing somebody like Warren onto the ticket to balance out the ticket, I've argued that Warren has basically earned it. If it wasn't for Warren splitting the vote in regards to Super Tuesday, this might have been a different election. If it wasn't for Warren not backing Sanders, if it wasn't for Warren taking that money for the super PAC, basically repudiating everything that she said she stood for in that election all at once, in order to basically kill Sanders' momentum, allowing Joe Biden to win this race. Now, from the standpoint of the left, they are going to hate that choice, and you're going to have a lot of people who don't vote for Biden just because of that choice. By the same token, I don't know how many people that is. And it may be possible, considering that the majority of the people who are voting in these polling who wants the VP pick, if they take Sanders off the ballot, they choose Warren. So clearly there's a contingent of people out there who want Elizabeth Warren, regardless of what my thought is on it and what the left thought is on it. The problem with choosing Warren in this particular way is a lot of people are going to hate that choice because they consider Warren to be a snake. It's unclear how many people that is. And beyond unclear how many people that is, I'm not quite sure what Warren gets you in regards to, let me say it this way, the base for Warren and the base for Sanders were different. Warren was this kind of wine limousine liberal crowd where she was getting a lot of people who are kind of heavily into the identity politics stuff with lefty curious, is maybe a way to describe it. Now the catch here is Joe Biden is already degrading, so anybody that he puts into the VP spot, let's be honest, has a very good chance of potentially taking over presidency within the first term. So it's a pretty big pick. It's a pretty big choice. And the public is probably going to be evaluating Joe Biden and that choice, especially that choice. Because as they look at Joe Biden and they see him cognitively declining, the VP choice becomes that much more important. Now, again, if this falls apart where a large number of lives are lost because of Trump's incompetence, it's not really going to matter who Joe Biden chooses. It's not going to matter what Joe Biden does. At that point, Trump loses it all on its own. Right now, Joe Biden is literally running the race in his PJs, in his basement. The public trusts Joe Biden less on COVID-19 than Donald Trump. And yet, Donald Trump's polling is utterly and entirely collapsing. Joe Biden doesn't have to do much. Trump is doing it all on his own. The one definitive ultimate choice is going to be, what do I need to win? And what I need to win is not the person who's supporting me the most in the way that Zerlina Maxwell is talking about. What I need to win is the people who are supporting me the least. And I need to lean in their direction to try to con them, convince them, or at the very least get them on my side. And the way that I'm willing to potentially do that is through the VP pick. That's the thought. I mean, this is not a policy thing. This is basically just, I'm giving you an impression of something, not necessarily a reality of it. Like, share, subscribe.